Hi, everybody. Get connected here. See if everything works. I'm on YouTube. Get connected here. And I know there's a way to put all the comments together from all the different. I need to do that. I need to do that. I'm not. It's. Okay. Let's see if I'm on. There we go. Okay. So everything seems to be working. Okay, we are still later than what I want, but it can't be helped because today has been a very, very good day. And when it's a very good day, a very active day, we're moving forward with justice for Richard. And it's big. It's very, very big. So it's intense and a lot of work has to be done, a lot of paperwork and um, a lot of talking, a lot of talking to people. And we're just very, very grateful for that. Very grateful. Um, because what happened to our son is absolutely, we just, there is no way that any person that loves our country, that loves your children, that loves, there is just no person that can just leave this alone. We have to get accountability for what happened to our son because what they did was so bad, was just so egregious and so big that you cannot just not do anything about it. Okay. I mean, to not do anything about it for us, it's like uh, turning our backs on God, really. We have to absolutely do everything we can to get justice for our son and accountability. Because what that means is getting accountability for our country, for freedom, for what's good, for what's right. And that includes for President Trump. Okay, that includes for President Trump. And I know, a lot of people waffle and go back and forth and they just wonder how we can be in all of this you know, in all of this distrust, the chaos going on, how we can be so positive, how we can be so trusting in President Trump. And there's a few things that we're going to talk about today that will give you answers for that. So let's get started. I don't have any fancy music. I need to put some fancy music together. I made a lot of fancy music, but I haven't put it all together. I need a team or something for this podcast because it's growing, right? It's growing. Um, and we need to get this information out. That's our goal is to get the information out. Um, so today is day 1995, almost 2000 days, yeah, almost 1995 days. And we do this every day, except for Good Friday. Good Friday, you just have to um, take a break and reflect. So, 1995 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room because he was a whistleblower. Because he was a whistleblower, he was under whistleblower protection. He has an absolutely stellar record. Stellar record. None of the retaliation, none of the retaliation was true. Matter of fact, from his record, they already scrubbed some of the retaliation, because it was so it was such a um, obvious abuse of power. And we have heard from many uh, veterans and soldiers that that have suffered under abuse of power, and they really, really used it with Richard. And these generals and lieutenant colonels, platoon leader, Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, is the prime suspect in his murder. So, am I allowed to say that? Prime suspect in taking his life. Um, so he was forcibly removed from his barracks room because he was a whistleblower for this absolutely infiltration into our military, which is still there because Sean Bernabe has not been arrested yet. Um, Many have not been arrested yet, and they have not lost those that retired, because many retired. Um, all of their benefits need to be stripped from them. Matter of fact, they need to be arrested, right? They need to be arrested. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers and all of your love that you give. So, yeah, so it's still going on. There's still mutiny in our military. Okay, I want to make that very clear. There is mutiny in our military. And that's why Fort Bliss and Fort Huachuca are talked a lot about right now. I think it's trending. I think it's trending, especially Fort Huachuca. But Fort Huachuca has a sister um, base, and that's Fort Bliss, and they work together hand in hand. So, and that's why the planes will, land in El Paso. They'll land in El Paso from Fort Huachuca. Um, so Richard was taken down to the basement room, and his life was taken from him, and it's the arms room, and it was renovated secretly. By the grace of God, we have the audios, we have the hard evidence that they renovated the crime scene, kind of like what they did at UVU, right? With Charlie Kirk, they renovated the crime scene right away. They did that on Fort Bliss at taxpayers' expense, with no limit to the expense, and no regular protocols, no bids or anything like that. It just was no expense spared renovation, which was illegal, an illegal order. That is confirmed. And yeah, that's where they took his life, and then they stole his body. Okay, they stole his body. This is a crime in itself, the mishandling of his body, the dismemberment of his body, the trafficking to Mexico of our son's body. And we have, indication that um, it's more than possible that his organs were taken, harvested. They call it harvesting. And, um, and it's just so egregious because then, whatever was left of him, they they disposed of, and all indications and evidence we have indicates that they disposed of his partial remains at the Plenitude Crematorium. And the Plenitude Crematorium is right over the border in Juarez, but it's owned by Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Caron, who, her and her sons, Rafael Arellano Caron, Jose Arellano was one of them was arrested. Jose was arrested, and but Raphael, they live in El Paso, okay? And they have several businesses. People go to their businesses, they know their businesses. You can look it up. And he has big businesses, and he has a house right next to Beto O'Rourke, right next to Beto O'Rourke. And his wife is part of the city magazine who had interviewed the two Chan brothers. Remember the Chan brothers that they kept a secret from the people of El Paso for running FitFam El Paso. Um, yeah, we'll give you an anonymous pass because they are military. They're military, and Tuganon Chan, he and they have very high up connections. Okay, very, very um their connections. It's wow. It's just so criminal. All of it's so criminal because he's in the security business, plus he was there at the response for the Walmart mass shooting, which the crime scene wasn't secured for 48 hours, over 48 hours. Um, so it does another indication that he didn't do what he was supposed to do. But also with the emergency intake center, which um, we have evidence that what was going on at the emergency intake center with all the unaccompanied children was the most horrifying thing. Was the most horrifying thing. You couldn't even can't even describe it. It was so horrifying. And so this is the connections. you know Richard was whistleblowing, and it was whistleblowing on a pipeline, okay, not on a person, okay, but on a major pipeline. And I just put up a picture, um and I wonder, I don't think I can do it. I just don't think I can do it because I'm not set up tonight. But oh gosh, I wish I could do this. I should have set this up before I went on. Um, but I put up a map on Facebook, and I don't think I put it on X yet, but I will. But I will. But you can look it up on Facebook. There's a map, and I added to the map today because of the breaking news. The breaking news, and we have so much breaking news. So I mean, because it was just an incredible day. That President Trump pardoned the former governor of Puerto Rico. That is huge news because, uh, you know, Epstein's Island is right there off the coast of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is right by Dominican Republic, right by Haiti. It's the pipeline from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, into Mexico, up to Fort Bliss and Fort Huachuca. And of course, Venezuela is right there. So it's the Venezuela, Puerto Rico. If you see the map, and I wish I would have put it on because it's just something to see. And when you go up to Fort Bliss, you go up a little further and you're at Zorro Ranch. I mean, it's a straight shot from El Paso, just a little bit up the map to Zorro Ranch, which also belonged to Jeffrey Epstein. So you can see clearly on the map this pipeline. And all of the pipeline has been corroborated by what has happened in 2025. And before that, too, but with the Cuban women that were trafficked that have some recently were saved, right? Were rescued and they spoke out about the stash houses and everything like that. And that's how they got the information about the Plenitude crematorium from my sources, um, third party, so that all needs to be checked. But Plenitude Crematorium was raided. Plenitude Crematorium is connected to the funeral homes in El Paso that are transnational funeral homes. It just opens up the fraud that is connected to the La Diabla, this woman, Martha Mendez Aguilar, that was performing illegal C-sections, targeting young crisis pregnancy women, right? Women in crisis pregnancies, and harvesting the baby, harvesting their organs, and then Plenitude Crematorium, is confirmed to be a narco dumping ground. That there's they're investigating all of that, right? They're investigating, but because of the infiltration that Mexico is a narco state, right? Especially Chihuahua, right? But the whole, and President Trump has said it, Mexico is being led by the cartels. And so you don't have that quick justice. Justice doesn't go away, y'all. And this is something that we have had to address from the very beginning. People saying, oh, you'll never get justice, you'll never get anywhere, they're all corrupted, the cartel are everywhere, it's so bad, and they're right. It is very this Mormon faction cartel group, and others in there, have infiltrated, and they've done it for decades, right? So they're very dug in, and they're so used to just being able to be lawless, and not have to be held accountable, that they've left a lot of evidence. Okay, so and it's just so when you start doing the investigation, like we have done day in and day out for 2000 days, just about 2000 days, and all the retaliation and all the response, all the letters, all everything, um, you you are really shocked because they're very good at impersonating nice people. If you hear, oh, they're a nice person, uh, I'm so okay, okay. You know them by their fruit, right? So I think people need to be scrutinized. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. Because people are so good at being imposters, impersonators, and telling you what you want to hear or whatever, but then are traitors, right? So it is this whole, and of course, La Diabla, Martha Aguilar, she was very good at it because she promised these young women, jobs and a place to stay and all of this. And then she's training 16, 17-year-old girls to do these illegal C-sections. And if the baby survived, then, they would adopt them out. Um, it's just, and then take the mother's organs, and it's just horrible. It's so egregious. So this pipeline from Epstein to Epstein, right? From St. John's, isn't it St. John's Island or something like that? To Zorro Ranch. It's just right there in the pipeline, right? It's just right there. and it's fuel trafficking. A lot of fuel. The all the fuel theft was used. It's so much money, right? Because we all need fuel. So much money that they use that to fund a lot, and of course there's a lot of money laundering going on, and because you have to money launder, and they money launder through all kinds of ways, right? All kinds of ways. Um, LLCs and property and all kinds of ways. Um, so it is very clear that all the evidence show why. The question is why would President Trump pardon the governor of Puerto Rico? Why? Because remember when the storms had come, the hurricanes, and Puerto Rico was so devastated. And this was during the first Trump administration. And Trump sent all of this food, and this governor stored all the food in these big warehouses instead of giving it out to the people, right? Because they wanted to tamper with the 2020 election. They didn't want the people of Puerto Rico to be grateful to President Trump. They wanted them to be mad at him so that they didn't vote for him. So, you know, that was very clear. I remember when all that happened. And but the cases against them was, more fraud, a lot of stealing money. I think it was like 15 million. They did, but the court cases don't really, believe it or not, they just take a minute thing that they can actually get a guilty um, verdict on, but they don't really show the whole picture. And it is a lot of legality, right? Legalese and all of that. And so for President Trump to pardon her when she had done that, and he's I don't think this was a mercy pardon. I don't think so. Not at all. Knowing the history, knowing what he's doing, having the map, looking what he's doing, listening to what he said about Jeffrey Epstein, like you. Oh, are we still talking about him? Yeah, we're still talking about him. And he's still thinking about him because the map shows it, right? It's the pipeline. He is not looking for low hanging fruit. He's going for the big fish. That's what he's going for. He's changing everything. And the Puerto Rico, the more singing birds, the better. I'm just thinking that maybe some things that were said, the art of the deal, really helped out with Venezuela recently with the capture of Maduro. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in on those discussions, but I know that, I don't think it's a coincidence that just, days later, you have the pardon of an opposition person, a person in real opposition, worked in opposition of President Trump, and President Trump is pardoning her. I think there was some bird singing. That's what I think. I think there's been a lot of bird singing because people have been rescued, and fuel has been rescued, and um, the border is more secure than ever. But don't forget that in Richard's case, and this is the breaking news today, that international news media has confirmed and put it on record and published it that Ri- Richard's, the taking of his life is connected to the Walmart mass shooting. That is huge. That is huge because you see the media, they are. they're registered or whatever, and they're considered, reliable sources, right? When it comes to the AI or when it comes to Google or whatever. Um, our Facebook page, right? Our family, we're not registered media. Maybe I should become registered media, and then the algorithm will consider us a reliable source, right? But we are the most reliable source. Um, but the AI or the algorithm will say, we're advocates. We're advocates for our son, and it could be, they don't give you the weight that they will give a registered media outlet. So, so this is huge, huge news because, and I should even read it. I should even read it. Um, it's in Spanish, but it can be translated, and it's not, it doesn't take very long. So I think I'm going to read it because I just think it's so important, um, for what happened. And there's so much news. So let me see if I can just go through everything here. Um, so this might be a little bit longer live stream tonight. But here it is. Oh my gosh, the first thing you do when you click on the story, and I've put up the link. If you go to the story, at the bottom of the story is the link to the international media outlet that covered this, that published it, that is just a hero. They are like absolute heroes, okay? This uh, this is just, I can't even tell you um how heroic publishing this story is. And so the first thing you see is, of course, our beautiful son Richard next to Judge Roger Rodriguez. And why would uh, Richard be right next to Judge Roger Rodriguez, right? Why would their faces be together? Because Judge Roger Rodriguez, the coordinator for terrorism and homeland security at Fort Bliss at the time, submitted a whistleblower complaint to many agencies, including individuals like Sean Bernabe, the then commander of Fort Bliss, and even Ted Cruz. Even Ted Cruz. And it was on Ted Cruz's desk, y'all. And many, many others. Okay, many others. So, um, and of course the FBI there in El Paso. And so here he was, a judicial officer that was also the coordinator for terrorism and homeland security programs at Fort Bliss. That held, that holds huge weight, huge weight. And what happened is that Connell Wenton, um, that there was immediate retaliation. Immediate retaliation. Instead of an investigation, it was an immediate retaliation. And so we were following him in the news because we knew that he was a whistleblower in our son's case, that identified the foul play, that identified the prime suspects, that reported the leaking of our son's file to the suspects, the reporting the tampering of those files. So he reported that um, in January of 2022. Okay, to us. He made a phone call to us. And we waited for, like the general to call us, like the FBI to call us, and those calls didn't come. There was immediate retaliation. Um, and when they ousted the DA, that was not part of their group, I guess. When they ousted the DA in El Paso, then things, then they went full force retaliation, not only against him, but against our family also. So this was, you know, the infiltration of the judicial system and um, the legal system, the law enforcement system, the military uh, against us. So this is just so remarkable when you say it, 15 plus agencies that we have accomplished what we have, and we're, in the to the point where we are in the vicious negotiations for Richard's remains, because we have everything else, right? We have everything else. We want his remains, right? So, but what's really uh, big with all of this is that the same people that committed fraud in the Walmart case, that are connected to the Walmart case, um, also were found to be connected to Richard's case. So they're absolutely connected, and you can read the article. It's the same people. It's the same people. So what were they trying to do? Well, we know that if you are the coordinator of terrorism and homeland security at Fort Bliss, it's kind of like having an ice position. If you are, if you are a law abiding and want to um, honor your oath, honor your position, like Judge Rodriguez, then you're a friend of President Trump's, right? And they didn't like that. Seems to me, because they retaliated against him because he did the right thing when he encountered um, evidence and the individuals that that it was so compelling that he had to put in a whistleblower complaint. And his expertise, his expertise in law and terrorism and homeland security, um, I think they should have listened to him, right? I think they should have listened to him. But it scared them, right? And why did they end Richard's life? Um, because he was reporting on Fort Bliss's connection with the Walmart mass shooting. Okay. He was reporting on Fort Bliss's connection with Walmart mass shooting, with the Walmart mass shooting. And so all of the evidence that we have is just overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And so so much so that now we have international media covering it. And I hope it's let me read it to you. It says here, Walmart investigation federal. Okay. So, uh, and this is in Spanish, so I'll do the best I can. Investigation is federal. Um, Let me see if I can get it in English. Uh, let's see if I can get it in English. Yeah. Okay. So, a fraud investigation confirmed in Walmart shooting case connected to murder of Fort Bliss soldier Richard Halliday. So this beautiful picture of Richard and Judge Rodriguez. U.S. authorities confirm that an investigation is ongoing. A group of people are being investigated for creating false documents, including Mexican records used to obtain benefits from victims without having the right in the Walmart store case in the United States. The group was denounced for having attacked Fort Bliss soldier Richard Halliday, who was murdered at the military base for having reported drug trafficking. So it was more than that, but this is good. This is good. He was a whistleblower. That's what needs to be understood, and it can get, you know, anyway, let's continue. They are accused of being in possession of the soldier's financial documents after his death. Absolutely. Uh, the group referred to was the same one that presented altered recordings to falsely attack Judge Roger Rodriguez. So it's all connected. To stop investigations related to the murder of Richard Halliday. Two people are currently fugitives and have active arrest warrants in the United States. The president, Donald Trump, he confirmed that the soldier Richard Halliday, he was murdered in service to the army for denouncing the infiltration of narco terrorism and the attack on the president to stop his reelection in 2020. Wow. So that is really that last sentence is the most powerful. Well, I don't know, the whole thing is powerful. But the reason why this group went for this narrative, this false narrative for the Walmart mass shooting, and what they did with Richard and the false narrative around him, and the same thing with the retaliation against Judge Rodriguez, is that just like Puerto Rico, just like the food hidden in the warehouses in Puerto Rico, instead of giving them the food and telling them that it was from President Trump, they hid it to retaliate, to affect negatively upon President Trump, to uh, not, they didn't want him to make any friends in Puerto Rico, right? They wanted the election in their hands. It was really illegal election tampering. The same thing with the Walmart mass shooting case. The same thing with Richard, and the same thing with Judge Roger Rodriguez. This was to hurt President Trump, and it was to hurt President Trump in order to hurt his reelection um, into the presidency in 2020. Why? Because he wants a secure border, and he wants an actual economy, an economy that actually makes things. And he doesn't want to, he doesn't want all these thieves. And why can I say that? Because the designations he has done in 2025 was a great example. If you follow his executive orders, if you follow the arrests, if you follow El Paso, you'll understand what President Trump is trying to do, because El Paso is the epicenter. It is absolutely the epicenter. So Cesar Duarte was arrested, y'all. La Diabla was arrested. Plenitude Crematorium was raided. The whole Cuban, Ciraldi, right? Mario Ortiz Ciraldi, he was arrested, right? Now, uh, Cesar Paneche's mansion was raided, right? We all know about, if you're paying attention, Carvel, which he's a co-owner of, right? The whole fuel theft, the um, the owners of Miss Universe. They were arrested, and then they did this plea deal too. They absolutely did a plea deal. Many of the cartels plea deal. El Mayo was um ex no, he wasn't extradited. He was illegally taken out. This is in 2024, right? Um was it 2024? 2025? I think anyway, I have to look at my timeline. It was 2025. El Mayo. But what happened there was, anyway, he's in custody. He's in custody. And that is a dirty betrayal. And it's not because of El Mayo. I'm not protecting El Mayo. It's just the dirty betrayal to botch a case, to botch an arrest, right? So Almayo, it's kind of like this whole thing with UVU. They're botching the case. They're botching the case, and it's going to go on and on. It's just and that'll be at taxpayer expense and all of that, because the system has been infiltrated, and it's uh, so President Trump is addressing it. He's addressing it um, every day, day in and day out, to secure our economy while he's doing it, so we don't suffer while he's getting accountability. So he's building an economy. He's providing fuel for us because at lower prices. Um, making deals with the farmers. That was so important, to look out for the health of our children. Anyone that knows anything knows that children need whole milk, not skim milk. So that was just brilliant, because, being in the childcare business, they always want to give our children skim milk. It's terrible. So taking out red dyes from the food, so everything that he's doing is um, indications that that he is for the people, that he is a real patriot. Um, so you know them by their fruit, right? You can't go to the media and listen to the media because they're not trustworthy, right? Yeah, they're not trustworthy. So, um, and of course, the letters that we received, everything in Richard's case, and it is moving. It's moving really along. And now we have the names of the two FBI agents that were in charge of investigating the Walmart mass shooting. And these TP and DF, I'll call them. TP really, I mean, both of them should be called Dirty TP. Um, but one of them actually has those initials, Dirty TP, and the other one, Dirty DF. And they are so dirty, y'all. It's just so I will be talking about that. Thank you, Christina, for praying for Richard to get justice, and um, about Sasha Riley. Absolutely horrible. Yes. It's because these FBIs are dirty, and they're not doing their job. It's been infiltrated. Um, I can't even imagine if Cash Patel is on the up and up, what he has to do to clean out our law enforcement and the intelligence there at the FBI, because it's so bad. It's so bad, y'all. Um, so, uh, you know, I, even with all of that, even with all of that infiltration, never give up. Never ever give up, because the world is made by God. The world is made by God, and it requires justice. Even the stones cry out. If the people don't give it, the stones cry. The world is made by God, and justice always comes. Always comes. People call it karma, people call it whatever, but justice always comes. And this whole thing with Renee, Nicole, um, Ganger, Shepherd, she's another one. Um, anyway, good, whatever. Um, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to poke the bear, and to uh, try to obstruct, try to do, you know, instead of doing it the hard way, like we've been doing it, where you're doing it through letters and connections and legally, and not violently, and not poking bears, but absolutely documenting and submitting, because justice will come. Justice will come. And now, her children don't have a mother, because um, her actions um, threatened a law enforcement officer's life in a very volatile situation, and she got a volatile response. And that, uh, you know, I got to let the investigators decide, right? But I feel like they were instigating, they were not doing the right thing. They weren't, if they had a hard time with ICE, they needed to be, um, writing, documenting, not poking a bear, especially one that is armed, especially in a volatile situation. And it's a horrible thing, but and I think a lot of these people are paid agitators, right? That's coming out, that they're paid agitators. I know that from January 6th. Some of the people that I was talking to as I was handing out the prayer candles, you knew who were the FBI informants. I knew there were a lot of FBI there. I couldn't say it, because it's a feeling, body language, and all of this, right? And I remember when the election of 2020 came out, and I remember President Trump's body language. He was so angry. He was so angry, and um he kept it very calm. He kept very calm. He has an amazing temperament, right? And at January 6th, when he was saying, peacefully march and all of that, the media didn't cover that. The media didn't cover that. And that's why I guess he's suing um, BBC, because they even spliced and diced to make him say something he didn't say. Um, take away that temperament, take away his good temperament. That's what BBC did. And, you know, he had to live through that, right? And that retaliation. And, when you get an election tampering like that, like he got, um, you know, he worked so hard in that campaign. And the money to get donors, to go to all the places, to organize all of that. I mean, it's and for it to be tampered with is not something you forget. And the Walmart mass shooting tampered with the 2020 election. It was meant to tamper with the 2020 election. And it's no coincidence that Beto O'Rourke rushed to the hospital to Ernest Christopher Grant and with the cameraman, right, with Chris Cuomo, CNN, um, and put out this false, very violent. It was, I mean, it was such a violent message, but it was a false and fake message. And they all knew that Michael Maiella was in the federal courthouse, right? They all knew that Patrick Crucius had family there in El Paso, connections, and yet they put out a false narrative to tamper with the 2020 election. And Richard saying, wait a minute, something more happened. The same thing with Glendon Oakley Jr. Something more happened. Glendon Oakley Jr. is no more alive. Richard Halliday is no more alive. And when Judge Roger Rodriguez saw the the interference and the foul play in Richard's case and reported on it, the retaliation was absolutely very, very obvious. Because that's how big election tampering, what a big crime that is. Because it's a crime against you and me and every voter. It's against our entire country. So, people will say, "Oh, President Trump can't get over it." No, it's not that. It's every person was tampered with. They tampered with anybody that voted in that election in so many ways. Sorry. So, hold on. So it's a very, very big deal, and we have to get to the bottom of this. And getting to the bottom of this is who did it? Who did this? And those are the big fish. Those are the big fish. So it is crumbling, crashing down. And, these big fish have resources. The spigots are being turned off, but so you're seeing a shaking up. And, and I'm putting everything kind of like in a nutshell because it is more complicated than that. But, step by step, once you see all the evidence, and I can't put 5 years of evidence in one podcast, but it's very, very clear that President Trump, and of course the letters behind me, absolutely knows who Richard is, who Judge Roger Rodriguez is, who Glendon Oakley Jr. is, and he knows who tampered with the election that caused, the death, the dismemberment, egregious, just violent crimes, violent crimes. So I hope that that map helps you to see the big picture of this pipeline, um, because it's not one individual crime. It is an entire pipeline, trafficking pipeline, criminal pipeline. It's very, very clear. Just like they were bringing in the girls in the barracks, the drugs, the guns, everything to compromise our soldiers. They had at both ends of this pipeline the same thing kind of going on. And we just can't let it go, right? We can't let it go. And if we can't let it go, the temperament and the personality of President Trump, I call him the modern day Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce that absolutely never, ever, ever gave up. I mean, that was his theme. That was his motto. Never, ever, ever give up. And that's President Trump. He never, ever gives up. And because he knows that justice grinds slowly, but it grinds exceedingly fine, and justice is coming. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye. And please share. Please um, subscribe. Please follow. Please absolutely uh, ring the bell, whatever you need to do on your system to share this